The Strait of Hormuz is only about 33 kilometers, or 21 miles wide, at its narrowest point. Yet nearly a fifth of the world's oil passes through this tiny stretch of water every single day. When tensions rise in the region, oil prices can jump within hours. Governments issue emergency statements. Naval fleets move into position. Financial markets react almost instantly. Think about that. A narrow channel between two coastlines can influence the global economy. How did one small maritime passage become so important? To understand why Hormuz matters today, we have to go back thousands of years to the creation of the world's first ports. Because long before oil tankers crossed these waters, another kind of ship sailed here. Wooden vessels carrying copper, grain, timber, precious stones. And with them came one of humanity's greatest inventions, the port. But this story doesn't begin there. It begins with a simple question. What happens when people stop wandering? For most of human history, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. They followed animals, moved with the seasons, built temporary shelters. There was little reason to establish permanent places for trade. If everyone kept moving, there was nowhere to build a harbor. Then everything changed. Around 12,000 years ago, agriculture began spreading across parts of the Middle East. Families settled near rivers. Villages became towns. Towns slowly became cities. For the first time, people produced more food than they immediately needed. That extra food created something entirely new: trade. Imagine harvesting more grain than your family could eat. Your neighbor had pottery. Someone else made tools. Another village had valuable stone. Instead of making everything yourself, you could exchange what you had for what you needed. Simple. But there was one problem. Land travel was painfully slow. A donkey could carry only a limited amount. Ox carts struggled across rough roads. Mountains and deserts separated civilizations. Transporting large quantities of goods was expensive. Then people looked toward the water. A single boat could carry what dozens of animals could not. Rivers became ancient highways. Coastlines became trade routes. The sea stopped being an obstacle. It became an opportunity. Nobody expected what happened next. The earliest ports weren't massive harbors filled with cranes and warehouses. They were little more than protected stretches of shoreline. A calm inlet, a natural bay, a place where boats could safely land without being destroyed by waves. That was enough, because where ships stopped, people gathered. Where people gathered, markets appeared. And where markets appeared, cities began to grow. Some of the world's earliest known port facilities emerged in ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, often called the cradle of civilization. This region gave the world writing, complex governments, and some of its earliest cities. It also relied heavily on rivers. Merchants loaded boats with grain, wool, and pottery before sending them downstream. Others returned, carrying timber, stone, and metals that Mesopotamia lacked. Trade wasn't simply making people richer, it was making civilization possible. Think about that. Many of the materials used to build ancient cities had traveled hundreds of kilometers by water before reaching their destination. But that's only part of the story. The sea connected civilizations that had never met before. Far to the southeast, another remarkable civilization was quietly building ports of its own. The Indus Valley Civilization. Around 2400 BC, engineers built a settlement called Lothal in what is now Western India. Unlike most ancient towns, Lothal included something extraordinary: a carefully designed dockyard. Many archaeologists consider it one of the world's earliest known purpose-built ports. The basin was connected to nearby waterways, allowing boats to enter and leave while reducing damage from changing tides. Picture this: more than 4,000 years ago, workers were already thinking about water levels, engineering, and ship movement. The challenges facing modern ports had ancient roots. Goods from Lothal traveled astonishing distances: beads, shell ornaments, cotton textiles, crafted objects. Some eventually reached Mesopotamia, over 2,000 kilometers away. Without realizing it, these civilizations were creating one of the first international trading networks in history. This changed everything. Trade encouraged specialization. Instead of every village producing everything it needed, communities focused on what they did best. Some became expert metalworkers. Others became famous for pottery. Others produced textiles. Ports connected them all. The more ships arrived, the wealthier the surrounding cities became. But there was one problem. The sea was unpredictable. Storms destroyed ships. Changing tides stranded them. Hidden rocks tore apart wooden hulls. Navigation depended almost entirely on experience. There were no maps as we know them today. No radio. No lighthouses. Every voyage carried enormous risk. Yet merchants continued sailing because the rewards were worth it. Then came ancient Egypt. The Nile River transformed the kingdom into one of history's greatest civilizations. Every year, the river flooded surrounding farmland, producing enormous harvests. The surplus fed millions, but Egypt needed resources it didn't possess. cedar wood from Lebanon, incense from Arabia, gold from Nubia, exotic animals, precious stones. Ports along both the Nile and the Red Sea became essential gateways connecting Egypt to distant lands. One of the most famous expeditions sailed during the reign of Queen Hatshepsut around 1470 BC. Her ships traveled to the mysterious land of Punt. Historians still debate its exact location. It may have been somewhere along the Horn of Africa. The expedition returned, carrying incense trees, ivory, ebony, gold, exotic animals, and other valuable goods. Imagine seeing animals and plants that had never existed in your homeland. Ancient ports weren't simply moving cargo. They were introducing entire civilizations to new worlds. Nobody expected what happened next. As ships traveled farther, ports became more than places of trade. They became places where ideas traveled, writing systems spread, religions crossed seas, new technologies appeared. Even diseases followed the same routes. Every ship carried more than merchandise. It carried culture. Languages mixed along busy docks. Foreign merchants introduced unfamiliar customs. New foods appeared in local markets. Entire civilizations changed because strangers arrived by sea. This decision seemed small at the time. It wasn't. Because every successful port made the next voyage easier. Each new harbor encouraged longer journeys. Longer journeys created larger trade networks. Those networks connected continents. Then another civilization took these ideas even further. The Phoenicians. Living along the eastern Mediterranean coast around 1200 BC, they became some of history's greatest sailors. Unlike many kingdoms, the Phoenicians didn't build a vast land empire. They built something different, a network of ports. City after city stretched across the Mediterranean. Tyre, Sidon, Byblos. Later colonies, like Carthage. Each port became another link in an expanding chain of trade. Instead of conquering territory with armies, they connected the ancient world through commerce. Their ships carried glassed timber and luxury goods across thousands of kilometers. But perhaps their greatest export wasn't a product at all. It was an idea, an alphabet. The writing system developed by the Phoenicians spread through their trading networks and influenced the Greek alphabet, which later influenced the Latin alphabet used by much of the world today. Think about that. A merchant ship entering a busy port wasn't just delivering cargo. It was quietly changing human history. But the greatest age of ancient ports was still ahead. Because one empire was about to build a maritime network unlike anything the world had ever seen. And at its heart lay a sea that would become the center of the ancient world. Unlike the open Atlantic or the vast Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean was almost designed for ancient sailors. Its waters were relatively calm. Its coastlines were filled with natural harbors. Hundreds of islands offered places to rest, repair ships, and find fresh water. It became the perfect sea for trade. But there was one problem. Trade routes are only valuable if they're safe. And safety was never guaranteed. Pirates attacked merchant vessels. Storms appeared without warning. Rival kingdoms fought to control the richest harbors. Every successful port became a prize worth conquering. Nobody understood that better than the Romans. As Rome expanded from a small Italian city into a vast empire, it didn't simply conquer land. It conquered ports, one after another. The empire took control of the Mediterranean coastline. Soon, Rome controlled hundreds of harbors, stretching from modern-day Spain to Egypt, from North Africa to the Middle East. The Romans even gave the Mediterranean a new name, Mare Nostrum, our sea. Think about that. An entire sea became, in Roman eyes, an inland highway connecting one enormous civilization. But conquering ports wasn't enough. Rome needed to improve them. Engineers built massive stone harbors that could withstand powerful waves. Warehouses lined the waterfront. Lighthouses guided ships through darkness. Breakwaters protected vessels from storms. Perhaps the greatest example was Portus, the great harbor built to serve Rome itself. Located near the mouth of the Tiber River, Portus became one of the largest engineering projects of the ancient world. Huge ships arrived, carrying grain from Egypt, olive oil from Spain, wine from Gaul, marble from Greece, exotic spices from Arabia and India. Without these ships, Rome could not survive. Imagine living in a city of more than 1 million people almost 2,000 years ago. Every day, food had to arrive on time. Not hundreds of kilograms, thousands of tons. A single interruption could lead to shortages. 2 interruptions could lead to riots. The empire depended on its ports as much as it depended on its armies. This changed everything. Ports were no longer places where ships unloaded cargo. They became the beating heart of entire economies. Tax collectors worked there. Judges settled commercial disputes. Bankers financed voyages. Shipbuilders developed larger and stronger vessels. Merchants from dozens of cultures negotiated in crowded marketplaces. Some ports became among the richest cities on Earth, but that's only part of the story. As trade expanded farther east, Another maritime highway was quietly becoming just as important: the Indian Ocean. Unlike the Mediterranean, this ocean connected East Africa, Arabia, Persia, India, and Southeast Asia. At first glance, sailing across such enormous distances seemed impossible. Then sailors discovered something extraordinary: the monsoon winds. Every year, seasonal winds changed direction with remarkable consistency. One season carried ships east. Months later, the winds reversed, carrying them home. This natural cycle transformed ocean travel. Instead of hugging coastlines, sailors began crossing the open sea. What had once taken years could now take months. This decision seemed small at the time. It wasn't, because it connected civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers. Ports around the Arabian Peninsula flourished. Cities along the Persian Gulf became major trading centers. Ships loaded with pearls, dates, copper, and horses departed for India. They returned carrying pepper, cotton, ivory, silk, and precious gemstones. Many of those vessels passed through one narrow stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz, long before oil tankers existed. This passage controlled the movement of valuable cargo between the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. Whoever controlled these waters influenced one of the world's busiest trade routes. Sound familiar? The strategic importance of Hormuz didn't begin with oil. It began with ancient merchants more than 2,000 years ago. Nobody expected what happened next. As maritime trade grew, ports became melting pots unlike anything humanity had seen before. Walk through the docks of Alexandria in Egypt. You might hear Greek, Egyptian, Latin, Hebrew, and Arabic spoken within minutes. Visit ancient Aden or the ports of the Persian Gulf. You would meet sailors from Africa, merchants from India, traders from Persia, and travelers from distant China. Ports became places where strangers became business partners. Ideas traveled as easily as cargo. Mathematics, astronomy, religious beliefs, architecture, even cooking traditions crossed oceans through busy harbors. The world's first globalization wasn't driven by airplanes or the internet. It was driven by ships. But there was one problem: prosperity attracts competition. As kingdoms became wealthier through maritime trade, they fought harder to control strategic ports. Some cities rose to greatness almost overnight. Others disappeared just as quickly. Earthquakes destroyed harbors. Rivers changed course. Empires collapsed. Trade routes shifted. Some of history's greatest ports slowly vanished beneath sand or seawater. Today, archaeologists continue to discover ancient docks buried beneath modern cities or hidden beneath the sea. Stone anchors, broken amphorae, fragments of warehouses, silent reminders of places that once connected the world. Think about that. Some of the busiest places in human history now lay forgotten beneath layers of mud and stone. Yet their influence never truly disappeared. Every modern container port, every cargo terminal, every naval base, every fishing harbor exists because ancient civilizations solved the same fundamental problem thousands of years ago. How do you safely move people and goods across water? Today, more than 80% of global trade by volume still travels by sea. Every smartphone, every car, every piece of furniture, every shipment of grain, every container crossing an ocean follows a tradition that began in simple natural harbors thousands of years ago. And that brings us back to the Strait of Hormuz. Every day, enormous oil tankers pass through the same narrow waters where merchants once sailed with copper, spices, pearls, and timber. The cargo has changed, the ships have changed, the technology has changed, but the geography hasn't. A narrow passage that shaped the ancient world still shapes the modern one. Perhaps that's the most remarkable part of this story. The first ports weren't just places where ships stopped. They were places where civilizations met, where strangers exchanged ideas, where cultures mixed, where the ancient world became connected for the very first time. Sometimes, history isn't written in palaces or on battlefields. Sometimes, it's written on a quiet shoreline, where someone first decided to build a place for a boat to come ashore.